Dad, what's the future gonna look like?
We are in a new golden age of space today that I think people are just beginning to realize. I'm going to talk about what I think is one of the most important and exciting things happening in space, how we are expanding our reach beyond low Earth orbit for the first time. But first, let's take a look at how we got here. So a little bit about myself. I'm John. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a company called Astranis. We build a highly advanced new class of satellite. And before that, I ran an organization called the Commercial Spaceflight Federation, and I was the director of rocket flight operations for the X Prize Foundation. And it was there that I got to see this entire new industry begin to take off. So let's talk about how we got here. So why now? The answer is reusable rockets. Reusability. SpaceX cracked the code, and they showed for the first time that we can fly rockets like aircraft. And I think, 100 years from now, when we are looking back on this great golden era of space, we will look at it in terms of before and after reusable rockets. It's just completely opened up the space economy to a whole array of new things we never thought were possible. So if you look at this behind me, these are all real pictures from the SpaceX transporter missions where new companies can go buy a ride to space for cheap and they can get there fast. And this has allowed this crazy array of new capabilities, new companies, new technologies, all to get launched to space at a discount rate. And the variety of things happening is just incredible. You have new companies doing everything from broadband communications to remote sensing, Earth imagery, rendezvous and docking, and even things like synthetic aperture radar, which is a very advanced technology. We thought there would never be new startups doing that. And now you have basically all these things unfolding as we speak. And what we realized, I think, at Astranis is there was something missing. There was something missing where all of these new satellites, all these new companies, they are all doing things in low Earth orbit. These are all satellites for low Earth orbit. And that was surprising to us because it turns out that historically, it is actually the high orbits where most of the money has been made and most of the value has been created and where our most important national security capabilities are today. Up in high orbits, and specifically a special orbit called geostationary orbit, where you can park a satellite over a country and have this full-on view, 24/7, locked in just with one satellite. So historically, this has been done with giant satellites. They cost hundreds of millions of dollars, often $1 billion per satellite. And they're made by just a handful of companies in the world, Boeing, Airbus. And the problem is they take years to build. So we knew there had to be a better way. These satellites, the big satellites, these monstrosities they build for GEO are now too slow and too expensive for today's world. But it does raise the question, why aren't any other companies doing this? And the answer is that it is hard. It is hard on multiple dimensions. If you look at what it takes to do satellites in high Earth orbits, you have to solve this array of really hard engineering challenges. You need rad-hard electronics because this is one of the harshest radiation environments that there is. You need onboard propulsion. So your whole satellite has to be also, in addition to a functioning satellite, it has to be a mini rocket because the rockets don't get you all the way there. So you need this onboard propulsion to get you all the way up to those high orbits. And then lastly, the day-night cycle of GEO lends itself to new thermal designs, and you really have to operate at the bleeding edge. So we've been taking a look at this. And what is it that it is going to take to go and solve these problems and launch these new satellites for these very valuable orbits? Well, I can tell you it is hard. Remember, all those other companies, all those other satellites, they said, we're going to stick to LEO. We're going to stick to low Earth orbit. So I think we're going to need to raise hundreds of millions of dollars from the top investors in the world. We're going to need to find hundreds of the best aerospace engineers and high-frequency radio engineers, have them work just all in one building, like a Manhattan project, and then, fast forward 5 or 10 years from now, maybe we'll be able to launch these satellites into space. But that's what we're going to do. Actually, I'm just messing with you guys. We already did all those things.
Go Falcon, go Astranis.
Special thanks to SpaceX for this wonderful ride to space. We're now a multi-time buyer of SpaceX rockets. And if you get your own dedicated rocket, they let you put your logo on the rocket, which is pretty cool. I highly recommend it. So this is these satellites deploying, real video off the rocket, satellites deploying earlier this year. And we are now excited to say that in addition to having proven these satellites operational on orbit, we have now signed more customers than we can handle at our satellite manufacturing facility. We actually now have over $1 billion of firm signed contracts for these satellites that we are busy ramping up production as we speak to go and deliver on these orders. Where I think this use case really shines is dedicated satellites for enterprise and sovereign use cases. So countries or enterprise customers, think oil and gas, who want their own dedicated satellite and private network. And that is what we're doing with the satellite that is arriving over the Philippines as we speak and is about to enter into service. And then last but not least, earlier this year we announced our biggest deal yet, a new dedicated satellite for the country of Taiwan. Oh, we've got a video problem. We'll press ahead. So this is a dedicated satellite for that country, and the use case is trunking and backhaul for their telcos, but really they are planning for the scenario where their undersea fiber optic cables get cut by China. And in that scenario, we will reconfigure the satellite. We have software-defined radio on board to allow this to be a lifeline for that country in times of crisis. So this is a really important thing for this country and for democracy. So our commercial business has been going well, but it turns out that is just the beginning, because then we got a call from Space Force. So Space Force, this is General Chance Saltzman, 4-star general in charge of Space Force. He's a fellow Kentuckian like myself. And he said, John, we have a real problem. The problem is China. China is now launching more satellites faster and at a higher volume into space than any other country on Earth, including the US government. And this is just a brand new development of the last few years, and it honestly caught us by surprise. It caught us in industry by surprise, it caught the US government, and I think arguably our intelligence communities by surprise as well. So what are they launching with all these rockets where they've got something going up every week? And the answer is just about everything you can think of. They're launching big military satellites with the massive Long March 5 rocket. They're launching LEO constellations. They're launching their own GPS system that's totally independent. And they even have their own private military space plane that suspiciously looks exactly like our secret space plane. It's like they literally took it and put it in a Xerox machine. But they've been flying that as well. And you take it one step further, and we now believe some of the things they've been launching are a real threat to our national security capabilities. So these are 2 Chinese satellites. This is real data, open source, unclassified. 2 Chinese satellites in GEO chasing a US national security satellite asset, one of our priceless national security satellites. So this has really freaked out the powers that be, I think, and rightly so. And this is where they said, okay, we need some help. And then China's not stopping there. They're also making a beeline for the moon and what I would call the most valuable real estate in the solar system. On the moon, there are these small pockets of water ice at the lunar South Pole, and these caches of ice are exactly what you need to provide fuel and resources to go expand beyond into the solar system. We know it, China knows it, they are racing to get there first, and I don't think we can let that happen. We should be very proud of what we accomplished in the United States with the Apollo program. It was an incredible feat. We got to the moon first that time, but if we are not careful, we will lose this race, and the first lunar colony will be speaking Mandarin, not English. And I, for one, cannot allow that to happen. So when Space Force came calling, we said, yes, we are happy to help. Now, there's a few programs we're working with them on. I can't talk about all of them. Some of them are classified. But what they all have in common is they realized to catch up with China, they needed to leverage existing commercial satellite companies and commercial satellite production lines. So a situation where a company had already stood up a production line to mass produce satellites, and they could just tap into that and pull satellites off that same line. And so that's why we're very excited to be working with Space Force now on a new program called Protected Tactical Satcom, PTSG for Satcom Global, where they have put us on an initial contract and will be placing orders of satellites by the six-pack starting next year. And they're going to launch dozens of these satellites, and the program has a $4 billion ceiling. So I think it is within our grasp. It is possible for us to beat China with this secret weapon of commercial space companies where we can leverage private investor dollars to do R&D, and not just the R&D, though. You can take a technology and push it all the way through to full production before the Chinese even know what hit them. And that is something that is unique to the United States. And I think actually is an advantage that China, it's a thing that China does not have, not anymore. They decided to come down hard on their entrepreneurs, including some of their most famous and successful entrepreneurs. And as a result, their Silicon Valley is being squashed. And so we have a window of opportunity that if we press our advantage, I think we can catch back up past China and continue our lead. So that's what we're doing at Astranis. It is of course not just us. There are many companies that are doing amazing things in commercial space. But just speaking for us, I would love to have you all by to see our satellite factory sometime. We've taken a World War II shipyard and turned this into a spaceship factory, 150,000 square feet of state-of-the-art manufacturing space. We're in the SF Bay Area. Just drop me a line, you can come by. And I think if we can get more companies moving forward in this way, spooled up to go and produce things truly at scale for space, the same way that we're talking about on Earth, then we can beat China and be in a position where, we do not want to start a space war, but if they start one, we will finish it and we will win. All right, thank you very much.
The future is gonna be awesome.